Have you noticed that when Nigerians go abroad, we suddenly behave better? That nurse who once shouted at a woman in labor back home is now calmly saying to another woman in labor in the US, "You're doing well, mama. Keep going, mama." The banker who used to play Candy Crush while the queue in front of her reached my two. Now she's smiling and attentive to customers in Canada. And the driver who would clear you off zebra crossing in Lagos, now stopping 10 feet away in the UK as if a VIP is crossing. So what changed? Did we suddenly become better people? Or did the system bring out our best? Shout out to Real who asked this billion-dollar question in one of our videos. We didn't change on the flight. The system changed around us. You see that same nurse that was shouting at a woman in labor back in Nigeria and now saying, "You are doing great, mama. Keep going." She didn't suddenly become soft. Now she knows their rules, their complaint lines, and their legal consequences. The banker who played Candy Crush while the queue stretched outside now knows that one rude encounter could cost her job and even her next job. So she's attentive, focused, and efficient. Not because she suddenly found patience, but she knows that the system will hold her accountable. And those drivers who wouldn't stop for pedestrians or run the red lights, in the UK or in Canada, they don't just stop. They do it early because they know that ignoring zebra crossing or beating the red light will result to fines, court dates, or even points on your license. These aren't personality changes. They are a result of systems that work, with consequences that apply to everyone. That same nurse that was shouting at people in the labor ward, maybe she wasn't just impatient. If you look closely, she may be overworked and underpaid, looking after 6 or more pregnant women in labor by herself. No gloves, no equipment, no rest, and underpaid, and still expected to perform miracles. Now it's easy to say, "Oh, if you don't love the job, you leave it." But abroad, she has fewer patients, more tools, and legal protection. So she breathes, and you see her best self come out. That banker wasn't just careless or lazy. Maybe she didn't even have a working internet connection. No lights, server is down again, her hands are tied, and so she just waits. And this is not to excuse bad behavior. Of course, there are others that whether you give them everything, they will still find a way to be lazy. Nigerians abroad didn't become angels overnight. They just entered a system where respect is the norm, not the exception. And the same goes for the people living abroad. It's not as if they are better behaved. They just have systems that have guardrails around them. I once met a Nigerian nurse working in a Nike ward in the UK. She told me that this was being some moi for her, that even when she sees her colleagues complaining about how hectic the job is, she just smiles. Back home, one nurse handles lots of babies. She brings her gloves from home. No equipment, no nothing. They improvise a lot. But in the UK, she found reasonable staff ratio to babies, equipments everywhere. She said the job was just so easy, no pressure. That kind of a nurse, you could see how well she worked. She didn't become better. She was finally resourced to do better. And I will never forget my own moment of shock. My husband wanted to return a luggage. I had just arrived in the UK and I was sure they would embarrass him because you know how returns are in Nigeria. When you are buying, they will be smiling with you. But if you want to return, that same person will look like your mortal enemy from hell. So I stood away from the queue and behaved as if I don't know this guy, just in case they embarrassed him. But to my surprise, the staff smiled, processed the return, and we were on our way. That happened over 10 years ago. It was my first epiphany of how returns worked in the UK. It still stayed with me till today. Why do we still have field attendants in Nigeria? Because if you leave it open, people will gas and go. But abroad, people gas and pay even when there is no attendant standing next to them. And this is not because every Nigerian is dishonest, but it's because there's no system to hold people accountable. People abroad aren't naturally honest. They are conditioned to be honest because they see that the system works and the punishment applies regardless of who you are or who your uncle is. I know someone who fainted in Benin. He was just laying there for hours. People were just going around him, conducting their normal business. Not because the people were wicked, but because there's no emergency number to call, no 911, no 999. There's the fear that if he died in your car, wahala. If you go to hospital, they will ask for deposit. We've been failed by systems that taught us to protect ourselves first before helping others. And you know what really bugged me till this day? Nobody, not one, tried CPR on him. Maybe they didn't know how, maybe they were scared, or maybe they knew what we all know, that in Nigeria, helping may backfire. Abroad, Good Samaritan laws protect you when you try to help. But back home, help somebody and something goes wrong, wahala don't come. You're in trouble. In Nigeria, cutting queues is almost normal, especially if you have some kind of influence. You see someone walk up to the front and nobody stops them. Even the receptionist or the person at the front would even attempt to serve them rather than those that have been waiting on the queue. So what's the takeaway for the quiet ones? If I don't speak up or push forward, I will be invisible. Abroad, that same Nigerian that walked up to the front will quietly stay in the queue, wait for their turn, because they trust the system. Their turn will come. In Nigeria, a visit or a call to customer service feel like Mortal Kombat. Staff are rude, customers are louder, everybody is on the edge. Both sides are frustrated. The staff member may be undertrained, underpaid, and unsupported. They are stressed, tired, on edge. They are on the defensive because they know the kind of customers they deal with. So yes, they snap. And the customers, they've dealt with too many disappointments before. They come in ready for a fight. They're on the offensive because they expect to be ignored again. So it becomes noise for noise, ego for ego, aura for aura, because we are used to having to fight to be seen or heard. But abroad, rules guide both the staff member and the customer. There are consequences, there are complaint lines, there are standards, and most importantly, mutual respect. People behave better not because they are sent, but because they are finally in a system that works and holds them accountable for their actions. What would happen if Nigeria worked? What if doing the right thing didn't make you look like the foolish and the slow one? I don't think Nigerians are entirely the problem. I think our systems and structures are not supporting us to bring out our best behavior. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.